Welcome, seeker of forgotten truths. Beneath the veil of everyday life, something stirs, an ancient whisper, echoing from the temples of stars and silence. Have you ever felt it? That subtle pull in your soul, as if someone is calling you. Not with words, but with light. Today, we journey through that calling, a tale wrapped in myth, truth, and mystery. The secret of sight beyond the eyes, Thoth's forbidden technique, awaits your remembrance. Part 1. When vision is not of the eyes. There are visions in this world that are not born from the light of the sun. They do not enter through the eyes, nor are they captured by lenses or seen by the many. These visions come from the inside, from the temple of the soul, where silence speaks and darkness gives birth to light. Long ago, in the veiled age of Chem, what we now call ancient Egypt, there lived a being who was more than man, more than myth. His name was Thoth. He was the keeper of secrets, the architect of knowledge, the scribe of the gods. He was the one who recorded the rhythms of the cosmos in tablets that no time could erode. But there was one secret he never carved in stone, never etched into papyrus, never spoke aloud, even in the deepest chambers of initiation. It was not because this secret was dangerous, but because it was too sacred to be voiced carelessly. This was the path to awakening the inner eye, a technique whispered only to those who had seen the fire behind their own breath, a practice not to learn but to remember. You see, the inner vision is not a metaphor. It is a literal sense, lost to most, asleep within all. It is the vision of the soul, the eye that does not look but knows. The ancients called it the eye of Horus, the eye of God, or simply the third eye. Today, many dismiss it as poetic, but Thoth knew it was real, and he left behind the instructions, not in words, but in the very fabric of your being. The journey begins not with seeing, but with slowing. The world we live in is fast, fractured, chaotic, but the inner vision awakens only when the outer noise falls silent. The first step, Thoth taught, is to still the breath, not just as an act of control, but as a form of listening. Inhale and become the breath. Exhale and let the mind dissolve. With each cycle, not only oxygen flows, but memory. After stillness comes attention, not to the world outside, but to the space between the eyebrows. That sacred place, known as the ajna in Vedic texts, or the doorway in the Egyptian rites. You do not force this point open, you invite it to reveal. Gently, as a flower opens not to pressure, but to presence. Thoth's method was simple in essence, yet infinite in depth. Begin with breath, let the mind settle like sand in still water. And then, visualize not what you want to see, but what wants to be seen. Let your soul project its own images, spirals, symbols, light forms, even beings of geometry and memory. Do not analyze, do not judge, simply observe. In the early stages, what you see may seem imagined. Do not resist this. Imagination is the gateway. All vision begins in symbols, not facts. Over time, these symbols become living currents, visions that arrive without command but with clarity. You will know them not by their shape, but by the feeling that moves through your spine when they appear. A tremble, a recognition, a silent yes. This is the awakening of the inner eye, not the ability to predict lottery numbers or gaze into other people's lives, but the sacred capacity to see the soul's truth, stripped of illusions. You will begin to sense what others feel, see the energy behind events, hear the voice before the voice. And in that moment, you are no longer merely human. You are a vessel of Thoth's remembrance, a walking tablet, etched not with ink, but with light. But let us pause here, for the technique is not just a method, it is a door. And doors must be entered with reverence. In the next part, we shall step deeper into the structure of the practice, the sacred geometry behind the breath, and the layers of reality that your inner eye was born to perceive. Are you ready to see what has always seen you? Part 2. The breath that spirals between worlds. What if I told you that breath is not just air, but a key that unlocks dimensions? That each inhale, when done with presence, is a sacred spiral, the same spiral found in galaxies, in seashells, and in your very DNA? Thoth taught that the breath was more than a function of survival. It was a bridge, a current that, when guided with awareness, could shift your frequency and activate dormant capacities within the human vessel. The ancients never separated body, mind, and spirit. They saw breath as the carrier of spirit, the ka in Egyptian terms, the prana in Sanskrit, the ruach in Hebrew. And when this breath was spiralized, not just drawn in linearly but consciously curved inward, it began to awaken what lay hidden behind the veil of perception. The spiral, Thoth revealed, is the most sacred symbol in the universe. It represents how creation unfolds, not in straight lines, but in expanding circles of consciousness. Your inner vision is no different. It doesn't awaken all at once. It spirals, layer after layer, gently, inwardly, drawing you deeper into remembrance. The technique begins, not with force, but with rhythm. Sit or lie down, spine aligned. Close the physical eyes, not to deny the world, but to turn the lens inward. Then begin the spiral breath. Inhale through the nose, slowly, as if you're pulling golden thread from the center of your chest up through the crown. Hold gently, not to suffocate, but to feel the stillness. Exhale through the mouth, imagining the breath descending in a spiral back into your belly or root. Repeat. With each spiral, imagine you are descending into a temple not built by human hands, but carved within your being. This is where Thoth's technique begins to activate. Because once the breath shifts your internal rhythm, your awareness begins to pierce through illusion. Thoughts slow, the chatter quiets, and then symbols begin to emerge. Not randomly, but as living frequencies encoded in your soul's memory. Some may see a serpent of light coiling up the spine, a sign of the Kundalini. Others may see an eye opening within darkness, glowing indigo or violet. Some will feel heat between the brows, or even pressure, like something ancient is knocking from within. Do not fear this. You are not going mad. You are unveiling. Thoth's wisdom was never meant to be intellectual. It was meant to be experienced. The emerald tablets, though poetic, were symbolic keys. He never wanted followers. He wanted activators. Souls willing to remember who they were before names, before culture, before forgetfulness. This spiral breath, if practiced consistently, becomes a tuning fork. Your frequency shifts. The inner eye, long clouded by distraction and doubt, begins to clarify. But beware, the more you see, the more responsibility you carry. For inner vision is not entertainment, it is initiation. You may begin to dream with clarity, receive messages without language, feel someone's energy before they speak. You may even begin to see patterns, sacred geometry in clouds, in water, in your own hands. This is not fantasy. This is you remembering how reality truly speaks. But to access these layers, Thoth taught that one must not grasp, but surrender. Vision is not forced. It arrives when ego falls asleep. That is why the technique is both deceptively simple and infinitely deep. And that is why it has been called forbidden, not because it is dark, but because it cannot be sold. It is sacred, and the modern world has little room for the sacred. Yet here you are, reading, remembering, breathing. You are among the few who feel the call, not as curiosity, but as destiny. The eye is beginning to open. In Part 3, we will explore the symbols most commonly seen during practice, and why your imagination is not your enemy, but your oracle. Part 3, the language of symbols and the oracle of imagination. Close your eyes now, not just physically, but in the inner sense. What do you see when the outer world vanishes? Darkness? Shapes? Colors? A flicker of something ancient? This is not your mind playing tricks. This is your soul speaking, in a language older than any written word. Thoth understood what modern minds have forgotten. The soul speaks in symbols. Not in letters, not in logic, but in shapes, colors, and movement that stir a memory beyond memory. In the ancient temples of Kem, initiates were trained not to decode symbols, but to feel them, to allow the energy of the symbol to move through them like music. Because in truth, every symbol is a vibration, and every vibration is a doorway. When you begin to practice the spiral breath and center your attention between the brows, visions may arise. Do not dismiss them. A blue lotus slowly opening, an eye in a triangle, a golden serpent ascending, a cube of light rotating in space. These are not hallucinations. They are messages, encoded not for the mind, but for the heart of your memory. These visions are how the inner eye remembers its origin. The blue lotus, for example, is not merely a flower. In Egyptian mysticism, it represents the opening of higher consciousness. It blooms in the darkness, untouched by the mud, rising from still waters, just like your awareness rises from silence. The golden serpent is the energy of transformation, the Kundalini awakening, spiraling upward to reconnect the earthly and the divine. If you see sacred geometry, such as the flower of life, Metatron's cube, or spirals upon spirals, it means you are beginning to attune to the patterns behind reality. These forms are not man-made inventions. They are the architecture of consciousness itself. They live within your cells. They are your cells. But here lies a great secret, one that Thoth only whispered to the few. Imagination is not fantasy. It is memory, a soul memory. When you imagine, you are not creating out of nothing. You are tuning into a deeper layer of the truth. Imagination is the instrument of the inner eye. It is how the soul visualizes what the mind cannot comprehend. Modern education has taught us to distrust imagination. It's just made up, they say. But to the ancients, imagination was sacred. Prophets dreamed in images. Shamans journeyed through inner landscapes. Mystics painted with symbols. And Thoth, he taught that imagination was the first step to true vision. For how can you see with the inner eye if you cannot first dream with it? This is why your visions, though they may appear strange, must not be judged. Let them come. A spiral of fire, a hand of stars, a voice in light. Let them speak, and more importantly, feel what they awaken in you. Some symbols will stir joy, others fear. Some will bring tears, others awe. Do not run. Each emotion is a signal. Each vision is a key. You're being shown not just what exists within, but what has always been watching you from behind the veil. The inner eye does not invent, it reveals. There will come a moment in your practice when you no longer feel you are imagining. The images become real. The sounds ring true. You sense presences, ancient, benevolent, familiar. You may feel you are being watched, and in truth, you are. For when the eye opens, it does not just look out. It also becomes visible to what lives beyond. That is why this path requires humility. Not fear, but reverence. For you are not simply exploring your mind. You are re-entering the sacred temple of your own origin. And not all who walk there walk alone. In the next part, we will explore what it means to cross the veil, how inner vision allows you to sense other dimensions, and why light, shadow, and vibration begin to shift around you when the eye fully awakens. Part 4, Crossing the Veil, what the inner eye truly sees. There comes a moment in every seeker's path when silence deepens, breath slows, and something unexplainable stirs the air around them. It is as if reality thins. Time becomes less linear. Space softens. You are not dreaming. You are crossing the veil. The veil is not a wall. It is a frequency, an invisible boundary between what we call the physical and the subtle, the seen and the unseen. Most never notice it because they live so fast, so distracted, so dense. But when your inner eye opens, when your breath spirals and your awareness softens like mist, the veil begins to shimmer. At first it's subtle, a tingling in the air, a flicker of shadow that moves without cause. Colors may seem brighter, sounds deeper, even the silence louder. You may feel as if something is observing you, not menacingly, but with ancient patience. These are not hallucinations. These are the first signs that the boundaries of perception are dissolving. Thoth taught that the veil was placed not to punish us, but to protect our minds until we were ready to see with the soul. For to truly perceive the hidden layers of reality requires not just sight, but alignment. You must raise your frequency to meet what lies beyond. That is why breath, rhythm, and stillness are the gates. Without them, the truth beyond the veil can overwhelm. As the veil thins, you may begin to feel vibrations, subtle pulses moving through your body, often centered around the forehead, heart, or base of the spine. Some feel heat, others cold. Some hear soft tones or voices without language. These are echoes of the other side. And if you remain present, without fear, they will reveal more. You may begin to sense beings, not with eyes, but with presence. Ancient intelligences, guardians, spirits of memory. You will not need names for them. You will know them by feeling, some expansive and bright, others challenging and shadowy. Do not seek to control or banish. Simply observe. The inner eye is not for domination. It is for communion. You will also begin to see energy, not metaphorically, but truly. Auras around people, light flowing through trees, the vibration of places, some heavy and dense, others radiant. You may walk into a room and feel a pressure, or a warmth, or a buzzing. Your body is now an antenna, tuned to layers once hidden. But perhaps most transformative is how the inner eye sees yourself. You will begin to witness your own patterns, emotions, memories, traumas, not as burdens, but as living symbols trying to evolve. You may see your own wounds as colors, fragments, even entities. Do not fear this, it is the sacred mirror. Thoth called it the eye of judgment, not in punishment, but in clarity. When the eye sees truly, it sees all, without shame, without pride, only truth. And then comes the shift. You stop reacting to life and begin reading it. Each moment becomes symbolic. Every event, a message. Every encounter, a mirror. You no longer live in time, you dance with time. The veil is no longer a separation. It becomes a fabric you move through, woven by consciousness, shaped by your attention. But this gift comes with responsibility. For once you see, you can no longer pretend to be blind. You become a guardian of perception, a watcher of truth. And this is why Thoth shared the technique only with those who were ready, not to become powerful, but to become transparent, to become vessels of insight, not ego. Crossing the veil is not about escape. It is about deeper presence. It is not about gaining control. It is about gaining reverence. When you look with the inner eye, you begin to see that reality is not solid. It is sacred. And every breath, every thought, every word you utter shapes the weave of the veil. In part 5, we will explore what happens when the inner eye opens fully, and how it can lead not only to vision, but to inner transformation, healing, and remembering who you truly are beyond this life. Part 5, Becoming the Light You See. There is a threshold beyond the veil where vision is no longer an event, but a state of being. When the inner eye fully opens, light does not merely enter you, you become the light. Old mystics called this apotheosis, the rising of mortal awareness into its divine frequency. But Thoth taught a gentler word, remembering. For the light was always yours, it was only sleeping behind the lattice of flesh and fear. The first sign of this remembering is clarity without effort. You sit in silence, and visions bloom unbidden, yet they neither distract nor intoxicate. They are as natural as breathing. You notice that judgments fade, people's motives appear transparent. Sudden insights solve problems before the mind can even articulate them. You are seeing from above the maze, not inside it. Soon after comes empathic resonance. Emotions around you register as shades of color or ripples of tone. A stranger's hidden grief might feel like indigo mist, a child's laughter, gold sparks. Compassion ceases to be a moral choice. It is the only sensible response, for you now feel what others feel as surely as your own pulse. Yet the most radical shift is the self-healing current. When the eye looks inward, it pours light upon every fracture in your memory. Traumas long buried rise as symbols, perhaps a cracked mirror, a weeping statue, a storm-torn tree. Do not flee. Hold the image in the cradle of breath. The light will begin to weave, stitch, and fuse until the symbol dissolves into radiance. Some call this shadow work. Thoth called it the alchemy of sight, for light that merely observes is passive, but light that loves is medicine. As your wounds transmute, time itself alters. You sense past lives like echoes down a hallway, futures like scents upon the wind. Moments of déjà vu grow frequent. Prophetic dreams arrive with timestamps. Synchronicities cluster like constellations, forming new myths around your every step. You are no longer a point upon the timeline. You are its weaver. Yet Thoth warned, power without grounding breeds imbalance. Therefore, the practice must root in the body. Walk barefoot on earth, taste food with reverence, move, dance, stretch, breathe fire into muscle and bone. Let the light descend all the way to the soles of your feet, anchoring vision in matter. For a star that forgets its orbit becomes a meteor. Finally, you will encounter the mirror of return. One dawn, or one midnight, you will meet your own gaze in the still water of consciousness and realize, I am the scribe and the tablet, the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought. When that recognition stabilizes, the journey turns outward again, for the gift must flow. You become a lighthouse in human shape, guiding without preaching, healing by presence, reminding others of the light sleeping in them. Part 6, Walking the World with an Open Eye. To live with the inner eye awake is to stride two worlds at once. You answer emails, pay bills, laugh with friends, yet a silent horizon gleams behind every act. How then does one walk this double path with grace? First, honor cycles. Even vision needs rest. Thoth advised a rhythm of retreat and return, 40 minutes of deep practice balanced by hours of mundane engagement, 1 moon of intense inner work followed by 1 moon of simple living. Vision is a flame. Give it oil, but never let it scorch the wick. Second, speak responsibly. You will know things people have not voiced. Use that insight only to heal, never to manipulate. A whispered kindness at the right moment can redirect a life. An exposed secret can shatter trust. Guard the power of sight with the gentleness of night rain. Third, create. Inner vision hungers to express. Paint, compose, invent technologies, nurture gardens, write myths. Every artwork becomes a sigil anchoring subtle light into collective memory. The world does not need more arguments. It needs more embodied beauty. Fourth, weave community. An open eye sees further when reflected in other eyes. Gather in circles of respect, share practices, swap dreams. Collective coherence amplifies individual clarity. 5 candles together make a bonfire. Fifth, remain a student. No vista is final. Beyond every horizon glimmers another. Approach each dawn with beginner's wonder, each dusk with gratitude. As Thoth inscribed upon the secret gate of his deepest chamber, too wise to be proud, too loving to fear. And when shadows rise, as they will in a world still learning to love light, remember the spiral breath. Inhale the cosmos, exhale compassion. Let the eye glow, but the heart guide. For sight without love is cold fire. Love without sight is blind flame. Together they forge the sunrise of a new humanity. Thus the forbidden technique completes its circle. Not forbidden because it is dark, but because it is precious. Now it lives in you. Guard it. Share it with discernment. Above all, practice. For the eye is a doorway, and every breath a step home. May your path be luminous, seeker. May your gaze remain clear, your heartbeat kind, and your voice a quill